What's up? Lightning round after hours to your now playoff bound Chargers, your number 7 seed, as it states right now. And Chargers get a huge win. They flex this game. There was no Derwin James, obviously no Bosa, no Bryce Callahan, no Sebastian Joseph Day, no Trey Pipkins, and everybody else has already been out. And it was no problem for the Chargers to beat Tua and his hapless Dolphins today.
Yeah, they played a great game all the way around. Everybody stepped up when they needed them to. I thought Staley had a really good defensive game plan, probably his best defensive game plan of the season, and one that I think was probably so effective because it was simplified a great deal because they had so many reserves on the field and guys did their jobs to perfection. Herbert was ridiculous tonight. Probably his best game of the season. I mean, he took a couple hits early, got sacked a couple times, but for the most part, he was avoiding hits, climbing in the pocket, making guys miss, finding throws, getting ready. He threw the ball away a couple times, which he doesn't do very often. He was on point all night long, made one big throw after another, and did enough to win this game. So fantastic game. Really, really nice to see them pull out that win when it seemed like the chips were down. I mean, we've been talking in the Discord all week. I did not think this was going to be a pretty game. I fully expected Mike McDaniel to come out and carve up this defense with Derwin not on the field, and they really stepped up. So very impressive.
Yeah. And so we, throughout the entire season, we have had this no talk, this kind of vice grip on Emmanuel Acho and all his BS nonsense. Thank you. I was going to cuss here, but it's okay. Because I mean, really what we were talking about was, he was always trying to get a reaction. There was no real opinion based in fact. He's like, don't look at the stats. He called him a social media quarterback. And where's he at today? Because I invited him on the live stream, by the way. So when I get that ping in here, he can come in here. And I told him we probably got as much views as he does his failing TV show. I didn't say failing TV show, but his struggling TV show. So, when you've got a guy who's going to go on for weeks on this crusade against Herbert and then for Tua to come out in prime time, which, I know it kind of was close towards the end there, but Tua looked absolutely awful today. He looked terrible. And it wasn't because Tyreek Hill was on one leg. He was just bad. In fact, if it weren't for that one long touchdown pass today, the 60-yarder.
Where Michael Davis fell down.
Where he fell down, he would have had 85 yards passing tonight. Where is his ass? Bring him in here. Because they wind up scoring so bad. Sorry, go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, they wind up scoring 14 points on 2 complete fluke plays with Davis falling down and that ridiculous fumble.
That was their entire offense and a garbage time field goal.
Yeah, they were 2 fluke plays away from basically getting shut out in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And they had Tua scouted perfectly. I mean, there are games where it looks like this defense is not prepared and they don't know what to expect from opposing offenses.
Mm-hmm.
They knew exactly what to expect from Tua. They knew he wasn't going to throw the ball outside the hashes. They knew he wasn't he was going to try to force the ball in the middle of the field. And they really did a great job of pressuring him up the middle, making him uncomfortable, making him pull the ball down. He couldn't get the ball down early. And by about halfway through the second quarter, he seemed desperate, and he's just throwing the ball deep on every play. There's no effort to just make the offense work and work your way down the field. They're trying to make up.
Receivers didn't even know the ball was coming. There were 2 times they didn't even know he just threw it up in the air.
He's trying to make up a double-digit deficit with one throw.
Yeah.
Just completely desperate. And he's off. I mean, footwork is bad. Throwing mechanics are bad. A couple of those deep balls were all arm. He didn't have his legs under him at all.
No.
Just basically chuck and duck for most of the game. And they got in his face and they rattled him and they made him uncomfortable, and he could not find an answer for it. They never found an answer for it. You kept waiting for the adjustment from Mike McDaniel. Their defense made some adjustments in the second half and played pretty well, but their offense really never made an adjustment. They never got away from, well, we'll just beat them downfield with our speed.
Yeah.
They never ran the ball. When they did, they were effective, but they really never stuck with it.
Mm-hmm.
They'd run it for a first down and then throw the ball 3 times and be done. So they really, their game plan was not very good. They did not handle this Chargers defense very well at all. kudos to the Chargers defense. They stepped up big time. They stopped the run early in the game. They struggled with it a little bit in the third quarter, but it never really hurt them too badly. Asante Samuel Jr. played really well. Michael Davis was all over Tyreek Hill all day long, leading up to his Tyreek Hill's touchdown catch where Davis fell down. I think Hill's only catch came versus zone coverage on third down in the middle of the field where Mike wasn't manned up on him. But when Mike was on him, he clamped him down. Waddle had one catch the whole game at the end of the game, basically in garbage time. They shut those guys down. And that is not something I expected coming into this game at all.
No. And you didn't think that they were going to be as defensively prepared as they were. But and to be honest, this is against a lot of, and credit to guys like Jasir Taylor, and I know Alohi Gilman's catching some strays on Twitter because he was celebrating when the fumble wasn't recovered yet. But he did enough today. Nasir Adderley did enough today. Zont was absolutely unbelievable today. A big PBU on that Mike Gesicki third down pass. He had a couple of them. One they called a pass interference on that was kind of ticky-tack, but he was great today. Jasir Taylor was not an issue. I loved some of his plays today. Was really good in the run game. But, I mean, when you look at how bad this how Tua was today, and when you're and I don't mean to keep going back to Acho here, but if we're comparing, and we've said multiple times, Tua's a good quarterback, Herbert's a good quarterback, and they both can be true at the same time.
They both can be good, and we don't have to nitpick one or the other.
Yeah, we don't have to pin each other against each other. But because one guy did today and has all season long, do you take the guy who has the record for the most passing yards in his first 3 seasons ever, or do you take a guy who had a 20% completion percentage in the first half, which is worse in the NFL all season long, and could only come up with 3 first downs? He only had 8 outside of that one bomb. He had 85 yards passing today, and a chunk of that came in garbage time when they needed that field goal, when Chargers were relenting yards. I mean, if you're going tit for tat here, I mean, I don't know in what world you take Tua after watching this game, because that defense, by the way, the Chargers had was not their primo defense. They didn't have Bosa and everybody else in between. They didn't have both their captains, Bosa, Derwin. They didn't have Bryce Callahan, who's been the best slot corner in NFL. The Dolphins had everybody they needed on the defense today. I know their safety went out today, but man, and by the way, Christian Wilkins was like a one-man wrecking crew in that first half, man.
Yeah, it kind of felt like they just said, well, we can't block him, so just let him go. It was bad. Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing about the way this game played out really is you got to see Tua and Herbert play back-to-back. They'd get the ball back-to-back, and you could see how they handled certain situations. And the way Justin handled himself under pressure with people in his face all night long, making guys miss, climbing the pocket, sliding in the pocket, off schedule throws, throwing on the run, that bomb he threw to Mike, rolling right and throwing it back from the opposite hash to the opposite sideline was ridiculous. I mean, it was a 51-yard pass, but he probably threw the ball 80 yards in the air across the field. So
human.
And dropped a dime too, by the way, right over the defender's hands, right into Mike's outstretched hands. I mean, just a perfect throw. You can't place it any better than that. Watching the two of them play side by side, in my opinion, was illuminating, because I'll be the first to admit, I expected the worst from this game with all the guys on defense that were not healthy, and the way the defense was struggling with those guys on the field. I fully expected the Dolphins to put up 40 points tonight. I did not think the Chargers were going to be able to hang with them. I thought it was going to be a track meet, and you'd probably get a few explosive plays out of the Chargers, but for the most part, I thought it was going to be the Dolphins running up and down the field, scoring on bombs and killing the Chargers with their speed, and that never came to fruition. You didn't see Tua with the timing and the accuracy that people have been raving about, the anticipation. It seemed like a lot of his throws were late. He was behind guys, very inaccurate, bouncing balls in the dirt, overthrowing guys, underthrowing guys. He was really off. They had him really off his game. So great, pleasant surprise, because I thought the Chargers were going to struggle. I figured this was going to be, at best, it would be a track meet that the Chargers got beat because they didn't have enough speed to hang. But to be able to shut down that offense and control the clock for 40 minutes and go up and down the field when they needed to score points, They were great.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all kind of thought with Derwin out, with Sebastian Joseph Day out, Bryce Callahan, all these injuries and everything in between, that just getting Mike Williams back was not going to be enough. Not with this offense, not the way McDaniel's been coaching up his guys. But yeah, I quite honestly, Staley deserves so much credit for this win in past weeks where we've dogged him, talked about getting rid of him in the offseason and everything in between. Today was a good day for Staley. And, a lot on the broadcast, they were saying it on Twitter. I saw it. Somebody said it in the chat earlier about how Tua looked off. Tua was not off. Staley had him absolutely locked in a phone booth today. That was all Staley and his defensive preparation today. That was not because Tua just wasn't feeling it. He had nothing open downfield a lot of times. They dropped back in a lot of zones. They were getting pressure early on. When they weren't getting pressure, he was feeling pressure. I mean, even that bomb to Tyreek, if Michael Davis doesn't fall down, he might have picked that ball. He was stride for stride with Tyreek the entire time. So it's a hell of an effort from this defense, especially these DBs who were awesome today. But that's all on Staley. And quite honestly, I mean, special teams did their thing today, made all their kicks today. No issues on any coverage teams. Thank God Nick Niemann can recover a fumble, because that ball bouncing off Joshua Palmer's hands was scary for a few seconds when it was on the ground. And offensively, they did enough. I mean, again, they couldn't score in the third quarter. They came out at halftime and, they had two bad drives, one in which they were gifted a 15-yard penalty, which was not a roughing the passer penalty on Jalen Phillips, but they got the gift. They couldn't turn it into anything. I think that's the same quarter where Corey Lindsey's got his illegal snap, and they can't score 7. But they didn't come out right in the third quarter, but they shut the door in the fourth quarter. They could have obviously scored a touchdown and really made it nice, but they were able to go down, score when they needed to, extended it to 2 scores, and they won the game. So all 3 phases good for the Chargers. But Staley, man, just deserves a lot of the credit here. Herbert was superhuman today, but Staley defensively was just out of this world.
Yeah, it was. I think you make a good point. It was more than Tua just being off. It was the game plan and the execution of that game plan that made him off. They made him really uncomfortable. They forced him to throw the ball in the tight windows. They didn't let him make those throws over the middle of the field. They forced him to read the field and be a quarterback and not just cut the ball loose on slants all day long, which is, I think, what that offense really thrives on. So big credit for Staley. We've been really critical of him, I think, largely deservedly so. But today he deserves a ton of credit because they came up with a brilliant game plan and they executed it almost to perfection. I would really have liked – they should have won that game, I think, by 2 to 3 scores, to be honest with you.
Easy.
With the way they played, they dominated the whole game. They controlled the flow of the game. The defense got off the field consistently. I really feel like that should have been like a 17 to 20 point win, if not more. They've got to fix the red zone issues. We saw some creative play calling from Joe Lombardi today. He called the deep shot at the right time to Mike. That wildcat play with Eckler and Kelly was beautiful. A couple of play action passes on first down that worked really well. But then for the 5 or 6 creative plays that he called, we still had the sticks. We still had, throwing the ball behind the sticks in the red zone on 3rd and 4th down, throwing the ball horizontally on 4th down in the red zone, not throwing the ball past the goal line on 4th down in the red zone. I think he hurt them. He helped with some of the play calling, but I think he probably hurt them more than he helped them just by putting Justin in some really bad spots and basically asking him to work miracles. And to Justin's credit, he did more often than not. But there's still a lot of questions about the play calling in certain situations that need to be addressed.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Herbert had his career high in completions today. He was on it today. But I mean, so Lombardi's still an issue. Wildcat was cute. There was a couple good creative plays like Jamie's talking about, but I think the point is that there's still too much flat end here in this offense. The 4th down horizontal play I was okay with. I actually kind of liked the play call. I thought, DeAndre Carter tripped, and I think if he stands up, that's probably a touchdown. But he had one-on-one. You have your fastest player on the field, basically running one-on-one with a CB. You're going horizontally. He's got a motion, so he's got a head start on the CB. He's got a good 3 to 4 good steps on the corner before the ball's thrown to him. I'm okay with that play, but Carter trips and falls. I get why, obviously, it's better to throw into the end zone on 4th and goal. But I could go either way on. But there were a lot of plays today that were in front of the sticks. The one that really sticks out to me that just felt egregious was the 3rd down screen pass to Keenan Allen when it was 3rd and 2. That was atrocious. 3rd and 2, you're starting to drive the ball. You need to get a first down. It's the 3rd quarter. You got to start scoring points. And all of a sudden, they've got this play where they've got 2 blockers out in front of Keenan. They throw it behind the line of scrimmage, and they want Keenan Allen to make a play. That's just a bad play call. You got to get past the sticks. This whole throwing behind the line of scrimmage shit is not working. I mean, you get Eckler to make up for it. He makes some guys miss. Everett did it a couple times. Keenan has, Mike has, but really, there's better defense isn't going to allow that. And it's just it worked. Some of it worked today, but that stuff's got to stop. And Lombardi's still an issue.
Yeah, it's a big issue because the fact that he's still calling this crap just says that he doesn't understand his personnel.
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue to me, because if you're asking Keenan Allen to catch the ball running horizontally, stop, make a cut, and get upfield, you're just asking him to do things that he's not skilled at doing. They ran a similar play for Mike on, I think it was 1st and 15 or 2nd and 15 after it was 1st and 15. It was right after the delay of game call to start the 3rd quarter. They ran like a little bootleg screen dump off to Mike where he got 3 yards on 1st and 15. And you're just asking him to create yardage in a way that he's not physically capable of doing. Can you delete that?
Yep, I got it. Don't worry about it.
So you'd like to see a guy who's been here for a year and a half, almost 2 years, have a better handle on his personnel and be putting guys in a better position to succeed. Certainly you'd like to see them, if they're going to throw the ball on 3rd and short, 4th and short, throw the ball past the sticks more often than not. Maybe get away from stick in general. Maybe he's confused. Maybe when we say sticks on 3rd down, maybe he's confused about what we're talking about. We're talking about getting the ball past the marker, not running stick on every 3rd down.
Yeah.
But yeah, he should have a much better handle on his personnel. He should be better at putting them in a position to succeed, and he just isn't and doesn't. So it's very frustrating. And in terms of that play to Carter, I get what you're saying about him tripping. I think I had an issue with basically every play he called after they got a 1st and goal down inside the 10-yard line. I think if I recall correctly, they ran it once and they threw the ball behind the line of scrimmage 3 times. So the whole series of play calls there, I had a problem with. And because he threw the ball behind the sticks twice leading up to 4th down, I didn't particularly like throwing it behind the sticks on 4th down. I would have liked to see them throw the ball, toward in the direction of the end zone instead of in the direction of the sideline. But that's just me. And yeah, people keep bringing it up in the chat, and I wanted to ask you, did you think about the color of your sweater before you put it on for the show? Dolphins colors?
No, I did not. I've been wearing it all day. Yeah, and it just felt like the Chargers were the better team today, which we haven't said. I don't know if we've said that all season.
Better coached, better team.
Yeah,
they were more prepared.
Yeah, and McDaniels looked great this year too. As an offensive mind, he's looked absolutely unbelievable. But Staley took his lunch money today. Chargers looked way better. And Austin Eckler was amazing again today. The 4th down run right before halftime, where he ran with power on that 4th and 1. Shout out to Xander Horvath, who had the lead block there to give him some daylight. But Austin Eckler, again, amazing. And it was a huge touchdown to go into halftime. They really, really needed that one. And Austin got it.
Yep, absolutely. I'd like to see more of Austin Eckler and Joshua Kelly on the field together. Maybe some more of those Wildcat designs. Just find a way to get those guys on the field together with some creative running plays. Because I think we saw you can create some havoc with those guys.
Mhm.
People are expecting Eckler to hand the ball off. You can give it to Kelly. There's all kinds of things you can do there to create some opportunities for your offense. And their running game in general is pretty stagnant. So I like seeing that creativity. I'd like to see more of it. I thought that was a nice play call.
Mhm. Man, and now everybody's clowning on the sweatshirt. So in the light, it looks kind of Dolphins colorish, but I think if you look up close, it's dark like forest green. The light's just giving it a blue tint to it. So it's not so much Dolphin colors, but I get it. And maybe it helped them win today. So maybe everybody should back off. Everybody very disappointed in Gerald Everett, who had a bad drop today, and hands still an issue. Speaking of tight ends, by the way, Trey McKitty and we've been really positive, particularly bad today. Especially
he's garbage.
He has been bad, and his blocking today is awful. It was really bad, particularly bad today.
That's the one thing he's supposed to be good at is blocking, and he can't even do that. I mean, he was getting whipped by Jalen Phillips, which, if the game plan calls for Trey McKitty to block Jalen Phillips consistently, it's a game plan issue and not a Trey McKitty issue. But still, I mean, there were plays where he just didn't even try to block him. He just ignored him. He was getting beat inside. He was getting beat outside. It was pretty ugly. They needed to give him some help. And they really didn't. They put him in a bad spot.
Yeah. Let's see. Who else can we shout out? Morgan Fox was very good today. Big sack, knocked him out of field goal range. He was really good today too. There was a lot of guys on the line that were particularly good. They were getting after the Tua today, which they haven't been able to do for a couple weeks now. Even when Joey Bosa's been out, the pass rush has been non-existent. But we saw Mack in the backfield a lot. Fox in the backfield.
Van Noy showed up a couple times. Yep. Tranquil was blitzing quite a bit.
Yeah. Van Noy had a drive where he got a tackle for a loss and a sack on the same drive.
And I think he matched his season totals.
He was very good.
He was good. Good. They were the defense as a whole was really good. I mean, there really
was a group effort. Yeah.
Outside of Murray dropping that interception that he should have caught, I think on the Dolphins' second or third drive of the game, everybody was great. I mean, there were no glaring missed tackles really. No blown assignments really that I can think of outside of that one missed deep ball to Tyreek where it looked like Adler lost track of him and got beat and Tyreek didn't see the ball. There weren't really any blown coverages on the back end. Both Gilman and Adderley, I think, played pretty well.
Yeah.
On the back end, held things down. They played together as a team. It wasn't the typical one group plays well and two groups drop the ball. The defense really played well as a group. They played as a team for the first time all season, and you didn't really see any finger pointing. Guys weren't getting frustrated. Guys were just doing their job. Yeah.
This was a very overall Chargers win, offensive, defensively. They were just absolutely the better team on all phases today. And again, huge credit to Brandon Staley. What he did with his defense, with the guys he had, guys who hadn't played all year getting in there, like Jasir Taylor, who was excellent today. I was really excited to see Jasir Taylor. It was a bummer to see Bryce Callahan go down, but we've been the stuff we saw in the preseason and in training camp, and then some of the stuff we saw on special teams this year. Jasir Taylor deserves some extra snaps, and he got it this week, and he was excellent. I was really glad to see him get in there. Had two really good run stops today, and he was excellent.
He seems like a very heady player. Like he just understands what's going on, and he picks things up quickly, reads his keys well, and gets to his spot when he's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
There's no delay in him doing his job. He understands exactly where he's supposed to be, and it seems like he's there almost every time. It's good to see from a young player who really isn't on the field that much outside of special teams to be able to step in and play at that level.
Yeah.
After, watching the first 12 games of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what they were saying out of college, out of Wake Forest, how he was the captain of the defense there. And that's kind of why they took a flyer on him late. He didn't really have the intangibles, but he had the speed and he was pretty sound. And it looked like he had all that today. So he was very good. Gilman was good. I mean, we've mentioned, I think everybody on defense was good. Kenneth Murray should have had that interception, yes, but there weren't any big mistakes by Murray. They gave up a couple big runs, but they were able to tighten down for the most part, and everything was all good defensively.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they gave up a couple big runs in the third quarter for the most part, but none of them really hurt them. They were able to buckle down and get stops even after those third down runs. So defense was great. I think the defense as a whole group deserves a ton of credit for playing the way they did with some of the stars off the field. They held it down. Anytime you hold Luke agrees.
Yep.
Anytime you hold a team with that kind of speed that's been playing as well as they have and scoring the way they have, to 10 offensive points, really. I'm not going to count that fumble. That was garbage. Anytime you hold them to 10 offensive points, you had a good week in the NFL.
Yep. Yeah. No, it was awesome. And again, without that one big play to Tyreek Hill, Tua's got under 100 yards passing this game. And that whole fumble recovery touchdown was unlike anything I've ever seen. It looked like defensively the offensive lineman like batted it out of one of the Chargers' hands and it like bounced back to Tyreek. That one was terrible. And, there was just two big fluke plays, and that was their entire offense. They got a garbage time field goal late, but Chargers were relenting yards, and it was all over. Maybe I'm crossing streams here, Jamie, but in the Discord, there was a lot of talk about Athier, and I didn't catch it. What happened with Athier today? If anybody's not part of the Discord, you should definitely join. It's our favorite place during the Charger games.
It's our favorite place all the time.
Yeah.
Keeps us from guys like Emmanuel Acho and some of the stupidity that goes on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't so much what happened with him today as it was what happened with him during the course of the week, because he, as you know, he joined the Discord this week.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And there was
catch me up.
Well, I mean, he joined the Discord, and he basically came in and was making promises about how the
Chargers are going to win.
The Chargers are going to make the playoffs. Staley's going to have a plan for the Dolphins. They're going to execute it. They're going to be hungry. They're going to win. And there was a lot of disagreement with the sentiments based on what we've been seeing.
And he was right.
And he was right.
Him. Okay.
He was right. And everybody was calling him out and giving him his props for being right. And
okay.
He spent most of the week being told, he was wrong and that he should stop. And everybody that told him he was wrong gave him a shout out in Discord. And now we're doing it on the show. He was right. He called his shot.
See anything like this from Nick in all caps, by the way.
Okay, Athier is welcome here on the live show anytime. He made Nick admit he was wrong. We've never seen this before ever. We've made history here on
Thanks
the Lightning Round podcast.
That's good. Yeah. So anybody that didn't know, that's the backstory. Athier is a guy who is part of this chat all the time. Part of the Discord, was one of the few guys who was very confident in Staley, and he got it right. Good for him. Good for him. And good on Staley. He was right about that. Staley absolutely had a plan. But speaking of Discord, we've got the Lightning Round Discord. We drop any info that we get, any like scoops that we get, and we put it in Discord, and then we'll give it to you guys later. But one of the things we got this week was that the sentiment right now before this game, who knows, it's probably going to change from week to week, maybe even at the end of the season. As of a couple days ago, the plan was that Brandon Staley was most likely going to keep his job. They're going to keep him as the coach for 2023. And the plan was to give him a new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Ronaldo Hill is just kind of a fall guy at this point. He's not really the defensive coordinator. He is in name only, basically, but they're hoping they can maybe get a veteran defensive coordinator in there to help Staley out and improve the defense. Joe Lombardi is essentially coaching for his job right now. If he's good enough, they'll think about keeping him, but they said straight out that they are very disappointed in the offense so far, and they don't take any of these excuses about injuries or anything in between, whether it was Herbert being injured or Keenan or Mike, all that's out the window. Defensively, it doesn't matter. Lombardi has to, from here on out, show that he deserves a job. And today he did enough to get a win. I don't know if that helps his chances, but as of a couple days ago, that's where the Chargers stand with their coaches. They're confident Brandon Staley. They hired him because they know he was young, but they think he's a smart guy and a very good football coach. And he got to hire his guys. He hired Lombardi, he hired Hill, but they think the next go round that if they don't make the playoffs, or we'll see what happens if they do make the playoffs, that going into 2023, they would hire a new offensive coordinator and most likely a new defensive coordinator too.
Yeah, I think this game is really a testament to why he needs to be fired, because while they did win, why Lombardi needs to be fired. It doesn't matter if they fire Hill. Hill is a half measure. It's like they're firing him for the sake of firing somebody because he's not the one calling the plays. It's not his defense. Mm-hmm. I do think we talked about this in the Discord a little bit this week. I do think with Hill, he's a guy who's played in this system. He's coaching this system. He should be able to teach the system and articulate it in a way that players understand because he's experienced it on both sides. That doesn't seem to be happening. I don't know how much teaching he's doing versus Staley. But I don't think firing Hill really changes anything unless, like you said, they bring in a defensive play caller and they let him call the plays. Even if they bring in a veteran defensive coordinator, it doesn't really change much unless Staley is willing to give up calling the plays. It can be his game plan, but I think he's got too much on his plate right now. Game planning, managing the game, and calling defensive plays. And I think they need to take that away from him. Is he willing to do that? I don't know. Hopefully they don't give him a choice. But I don't think Hill changes anything. But if you look at today's game and you're evaluating Joe Lombardi as an offensive coordinator, I haven't seen the numbers, but even with that bomb to Mike, and he threw a couple of deep balls to Mike, did Herbert, I think I'd be surprised if his air yards per throw were more than like 4 or 5 yards today because of all the throws he made behind the line of scrimmage. And you're watching Herbert take straight dropbacks, not enough bootleg, having to dodge guys in the pocket, be a wizard in the pocket, make guys miss just to throw the ball away in some cases. And then when he is getting the ball off, like there was one throw that he made to Keenan on a quick out on the sideline,
where he pinned it on his shoulder pad
on a third down, where he pinned it on his shoulder pad that he probably had no business throwing. And it had no business being caught or even getting by the defender. But he made it work because he's got a ridiculous arm and he's a freaking witch with the way he plays in the pocket. But there were several examples of that where he's consistently overcoming everything Lombardi is doing to hinder him to move the ball on third down, to get them into the red zone, to make a play with his legs. Justin willed them to a win. He threw the ball 55 times tonight. 55 times. He threw the ball 29 times in the first half alone. And I think he had like 150 or 160 yards passing at halftime, having thrown the ball 29 times because they're throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage so much, because they're dumping the ball off so much.
He was 39 of 51 today.
39 of 51. I thought he threw it 55 times. I was convinced he was going to throw it 65 times with the way they were going. But anyway, I just think if you're looking at what he's doing to Justin and how perfect he has to be on every play, both in terms of making guys miss in the pocket and in terms of the throws he's making in the ball placement, you're just asking too much of Justin. And he's great. And he's going to be a great player, I think, for the rest of his career. There's still some areas where he can improve, but you're asking him to do more than he should have to. And I think you need to get rid of Lombardi because he is the reason that they're putting Justin in those situations, and they're not using any of their talent correctly at all. So I think that's why they need to do this.
Yeah. I mean, it's the right move. I mean, we've talked about making that move earlier, but I mean, going into next season, I understand the plan. I got to see how he finishes out the rest of the year before I make any decisions. But as of right now, that's kind of the internal talkings, is that Lombardi just isn't good enough. And I think that is a absolute thought that everybody everywhere thinks. You see it on social media, just outside of Charger circles. It's just like, what Lombardi is holding Herbert back, free, let Herbert cook, free, get him out of jail. Because really, I mean, Lombardi is hampering Justin Herbert more than he's helping him. And while there were some creative plays today, and we gave him his props for that earlier, there was just way too many throws behind the line of scrimmage again. Way too many screen designs. It worked early on, which was great to kind of negate the pass rush that was just in Herbert's face and kind of give Christian Wilkinson not enough time to get in his face again for another play. It just, as the game went on, they were adjusting to that, and it wasn't working as much as it was in the first half because they were kind of settling down more and looking for it more. So, yeah, I mean, getting rid of Lombardi is the way to go. He is not helping out this team at all, really, at this point. And I'm, when I read all that stuff, it was interesting to hear because you weren't quite sure if they were even going to make any moves at all, because it's not like Spanos type move. But right now they seem pretty confident in Brandon Staley, which I guess is something to look for going into the offseason.
Yeah, I kind of figured. I mean, Lombardi is like the easiest guy in the world to fire in terms of your staff. Him and Hill, it's easy to scapegoat Lombardi even with the injuries. It's even easier to scapegoat Hill with or without the injuries because he doesn't do anything. But they have the offensive talent to be moving the ball and scoring points. They have to work way too hard just to get first downs, let alone to score touchdowns. Every scoring drive they have, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, is 12 to 15 plays, it seems like. You can't survive at this level without speed, without the ability to make guys miss and turn 5-yard completions into 15-yard passes. And you can't survive moving the ball 3 or 4 yards at a time. You just can't. Eventually, your luck runs out. Eventually, you make a mistake. You don't get the perfect play from your quarterback. It's just not sustainable. And, we heard all offseason, they had a top 5 offense. They don't need another wide receiver. They don't need more weapons. They don't need to get rid of Lombardi. Well, guess what? They do. It's not sustainable. You can't do this long term. You can't put him in these positions forever. You're going to get him killed. You're going to destroy him. You need to free him up a little bit. You need to open the offense up. And obviously Lombardi is not willing to do that on an extended basis. It's just not in him. So you got to get rid of him. And I think they're getting desperate. They want to compete in LA. They see the Rams, turning downhill. They're 3-9, 3-10 this season, whatever the number is. And their stars are either hurt or thinking about retiring. They have a window here to capture the hearts and minds of LA if they do things the right way. And they're not doing things the right way right now. And they're not going to fire Staley. But if they bring in an exciting young offensive mind and they open up the offense and they get Herbert moving around, they're using some of the RPO plays, they're getting guys out in space, they're going to get more eyes on their product. And that's what they need.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, we found out beforehand, but just I don't know if you saw it, Jamie, but Bosa's going to be back at practice this week.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
That's good news.
Yep. And I didn't see this. I got confirmation on Bosa, but I didn't see this about Slater that he has a chance of coming back towards the end of the season. So I'm surprised. There's a lot of guys. I didn't think they were going to rush Slater back, but I think they're going to try to do it. There's a couple questions I wanted to get to. First here, if Slater returns, would you move Salyer to left guard, right tackle, or keep him as a backup? I'm putting him at right tackle.
I thought all season that I'd put him at right tackle, but I think we're seeing some deficiencies in space with athleticism on his part, and he might be better off playing between a couple of Pro Bowlers. So you might be better off playing him at left guard. And I don't think I don't think you're going to have Filer back next year. I don't think you can bring him back at his cost with the way he's been playing. So I'd be fine with him at right tackle, but I have a feeling it's going to be left guard out of necessity, and I think they're probably still going to extend Pipkins.
So hold on. You're going into 2023. Chargers get the 7th seed. They head in, and Slater can play the first wild card game. Would you? And Trey Pipkins is healthy.
Oh, for the playoffs. I was thinking next year.
Nope.
Sorry, I was thinking. I read the question wrong.
Yeah. Let's talk about the playoffs.
Playoffs.
I'm putting him at right tackle.
If Pipkins can't play, I would put him at right tackle. Like if he's not healthy and he can't, if he's not physically capable of playing, I would put him at right tackle. I think the concern that I have is Salyer's been playing the left side all season, and now you're going to move him to the opposite side and have him play the opposite tackle spot in the playoffs. I think that's asking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So if Pipkins is able to play, I would have Pipkins at right tackle. Even though I don't think he's great, he's at least comfortable there. He's been playing there all year. If Pipkins is not able to play, or if there's any question about his health at all, then I would have Salyer at right tackle.
I would, yeah. If Pipkins, let's see. So if Pipkins is not healthy, I'm putting Salyer at right tackle. If Pipkins is out, I'm taking Filer out, and I'm putting Salyer in.
You mean if Pipkins is healthy?
If Pipkins is healthy, excuse me. If Pipkins is healthy, he's right tackle, and I'm putting Salyer at left guard, and I'm letting Filer know that his time is up. Thank you.
I agree with that. with that. And if there is any question whatsoever about Pipkins' health, and they're not sure if he can hold up, then I'm putting Salyer at right tackle.
Mm-hmm. All right. So send us your questions. We'll just start rapid fire questions here. Do you think they would bench the Filer in the first round of the playoffs? I don't think they would, but I would do it if I was head coach.
I don't think they would.
No, I think Salyer would be a swing tackle. And in there, if
I think he'd just be a utility offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how they viewed him when they drafted him anyway.
Yep. All right. So Jasir looked good today. Does he get some extended snaps here?
I guess that depends on what happens with Callahan. Mm-hmm. I mean, if Derwin and Callahan are both back, then there's no room for Jasir to play.
Right.
But if Derwin is back and Callahan isn't back, then Jasir's playing in the slot.
Mm-hmm. Which he looked very good at today. But
yeah,
Bryce Callahan's been worlds better. I mean, we've only seen one game from Jasir Taylor, so that's unfair. But Bryce Callahan, arguably the best offseason addition for the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of health and production, and some of the guys he's matched up with, absolutely, he's been their best and most consistent offseason addition.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people were saying Khalil Mack, and I get the sack numbers are pretty, but just the way he's played all season long, he's been incredible. Let's see. Sorry, let me get these questions. Michael Davis. He was kind of the odd man out to start the season. Asante Samuel playing great. J.C. Jackson hurt. Should come back next season. Do the Chargers need to re-sign Michael Davis? I say absolutely.
They don't, because he's still under contract.
But do they need to re-sign him after he's done?
I think he's still got 2 years left on his deal, doesn't he? Didn't he sign a 4-year deal?
Let me look at it. But
he's under contract for at least one more year. The reason people have been talking about playing without him is because the assumption was they were going to cut him because his contract gets really expensive. I think the assumption was he was going to get cut whether they signed J.C. Jackson or not.
Yeah, he's got 1 more year left.
1 year left. Okay. Well, I think it's worth discussing with the way he's playing, but I don't think there's any rush to re-sign Michael Davis right now. I think you can kind of play that year by year and see what happens. You can always re-sign him during the year next season if you need to. Mm-hmm. but he's under contract for next season, so you don't need to re-sign him in the offseason. You've got him under control. A restructure would probably be a good idea to save some money because they're going to have some cap problems next year.
Yeah.
But he's locked down for another year right now under his current contract.
And you can't have too much cornerback depth ever. But Jasir Taylor does make things a little bit more complicated. Maybe even Dean Leonard, depending on how they see him. They drafted him. But yeah, I mean, Michael Davis is still here. So cutting him, you only lose like a dead cap of like $2 million, I think it was. Yeah, dead cap is $2 million. He's owed 9.4 next year. So
yeah, my guess is they'll probably restructure his contract, add a couple of years to it, and spread out some of that $9 million as a bonus over a couple of years.
Yeah,
that's my guess.
Which they should. Yeah, he played great today, and he deserves it. And I know people are hounding him because of him tripping in that touchdown, but he was great today. Chris Bernhard, do you cut Keenan Allen this offseason? Please say no.
So you don't want us to tell you the truth?
I'm
worried about Keenan. I know he's been hurt all year and the hamstring hasn't been healthy. But he's on the wrong side of 30. He looks really slow. He's not creating separation the way he has been in years past. And really, it's not a this year thing. He was starting to struggle with separation and playing fast towards the end of last year. I mean, he was basically a ghost in the Raider game for most of the Raider game at the end of the year last year. So I'm worried about him. I think you either need to cut him or you need to find a creative way to restructure his contract to move some money around. But he's making so much money and his production has dropped off so much that I don't know if it's possible because you'd probably piss him off, but you might need to think about cutting him and signing him to a different deal. You're spending way too much money on a wide receiver room that is not offering you consistent production right now. And they need to add to that room. They've got all kinds of problems at wide receiver right now. And that contract is a problem.
They would save $19 million from cutting Keenan Allen.
And that's money they're going to need. They
certainly are, because there is a wizard at the helm for the Chargers, and they're going to need some money, and they're going to need to put some pieces around him. Excellent day today, though. 12 catches, 92 yards. Really came up big a lot today. Armand, what are the chances you give the Chargers beating Tennessee next week? Tennessee on a real losing streak here. 2 or 3 straight?
I really don't like that matchup with Henry.
Nope. No. This has always been a bad matchup, whether they're losing or not.
If that game plays out the way Chargers games typically play out, where the Chargers are struggling to score more than 20 points, and the Titans are allowed to run the ball the way they want to, it's going to catch up to the Chargers. I do not like that game at all. I think I'd probably pick them to lose that game at the beginning of the season, and I haven't seen much that changes my mind. That's just a really bad matchup for this defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We both picked them to lose this game at the beginning of the season.
And I really don't think that Derwin coming back changes much with that matchup. I mean, Derwin's a fantastic player, but they struggle stopping the run with him on the field. So I don't think that changes a whole lot.
Yep. Tua had to pass a lot today, but when the Dolphins ran it, they had success. So they've lost 3 straight, but they're coming in, they're losing 3 straight. They're going to be pretty pissed off, but that's a terrible matchup with Derrick Henry. I don't see them beating Tennessee next week. I would say, if you made me guess, I would say they would lose that game.
Is that game in Tennessee or is it in LA?
Not
that it matters.
Let me check. Yeah. Let's see. It's in LA.
Yeah, I hate that matchup. I think it's a terrible matchup for the Chargers, and I don't see how the Chargers can game plan to stop that with the personnel they have. Eventually, it comes down to personnel. They were able to put together a really good game plan tonight and throw the Dolphins off by doing things that they're not normally known for doing in their pass defense. There's not much you can do to hide up the fact that you can't tackle in the running game. It's going to hurt you eventually.
Oh, definitely. They had a few good stops today. Their tackling was a little bit better, but man, there were a couple big runs. Did this win save Staley's head coaching career? We already talked about it. He is going to most likely be here for 2023 unless they collapse here at the end of the year. Stebbins, why do you think Sorrell gets away with a false start almost every snap? That dude jumps so fast. It doesn't help him, but he jumps out real fast.
The only thing I could think of is either the officials are incompetent or they just feel really bad for him.
It's the latter. Okay.
It's almost becoming like that extra second that offenses get for the delay of game. Like they'll let you go down to 0 and snap the ball without calling the penalty on you. That's what it's becoming like for Sorrell. It's like, we'll just give him that extra second because he's so bad and he's so overmatched that like we just feel bad for him.
What do you think about Jasir Taylor as a dime linebacker? I don't think his body would hold up. He's kind of a skinny corner kid.
Yeah. But they don't play that much dime, do they? I think they're mostly a nickel. Mm-hmm. This is not a dime heavy scheme like it has been in years past. They're either in base or they're in nickel for the most part. So I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Let's wrap some of this up. What do you think about Frank Reich as the offensive coordinator in 2023 from Nolan, who looks new? What's up, Nolan? Thanks for joining us.
I mean, Reich worked miracles with Carson Wentz, who sucks. So imagine what he could do with Herbert. That's the kind of thing that I could totally see the Chargers doing. He has ties to the organization. Mm-hmm. He's coached here before. He's familiar with some of the offensive skill players. Yep. I'm sure he'd love to get his hands on Herbert. It's something that I could totally see them doing. The only thing that I think would hold them back is that because he has head coaching experience, it could be perceived as a threat to Staley, and they may not want to go that route for that reason. But it makes a lot of sense on a lot of fronts, and I'd be okay with it because I think he'd probably do some really fun things with that offense, and especially with Herbert.
All right. Yeah, I think it make a ton of sense. There's a couple ties the Chargers have to some guys that might be Steichen being one of them. Who was the other one we mentioned? There's one other in the Discord that I mentioned. I can't remember.
We talked about Joe Brady on the show last week.
Yeah. But ties to the Chargers, man.
Ties to the Chargers.
I just had it.
Well, guys have been throwing around Pep Hamilton's name quite a bit. Is that who you were thinking of?
No. Anyway, go ahead. I got to search my brain for a second. So let me give you a question and I'll figure this out. Let's see. Who would you start at free safety from Ivan? Who would you start at free safety next year since JC doesn't seem to be ready?
Well, I mean, he's not ready right now, but a lot can happen in an off season. So just because he's not ready now doesn't necessarily mean he won't be ready next off season. They're going to start him at free safety because they spent a 3rd round pick on him, and I have a really hard time seeing them bring Adderley back with the way he's played this year. So my guess is they're going to be eager to get his playmaking abilities on the field and hope he gets some interceptions and he will be out there. Otherwise, you're probably looking at bringing somebody in from the outside on a very low level deal and hoping he can fill in until JC is ready. But I don't think if it's not Woods, then right now I would say the starting free safety next year is not on this roster at the moment.
I agree with you. Yep. I don't think he is either. I think JT is going to get some competition this offseason, and I don't think it's going to be Nasir Adderley. The guy I was thinking, so we met Frank Reich, Shane Steichen, offensive coordinator. People mentioned Pep Hamilton. The other tie of the Chargers, Frank Smith, that I was thinking of. The offensive line coach last year, run game coordinator. Has some.
But isn't he the offensive coordinator with the Dolphins right now?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I don't see how that would make sense because they could just say no because it's a lateral move.
Yeah, possible, but a guy who's Whether I don't know if he's got a job next year or not, but just a guy who could be on the market. They've talked about him maybe being a head coaching candidate next year too. So we'll see. But just a guy who's got some ties. All right. I think what is this, Omar? Interesting fact this season. Staley has lost to coaches with Super Bowl experience. Really? So any guy with Super Bowl experience,
he's lost to guys he's lost to guys without Super Bowl experience too. So
he's done both.
But I mean, there is a thing there. I mean, last year he's lost to Belichick, he's lost to Jim Harbaugh, he's lost to there are a couple other guys too.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who else. There were other guys there. When he matches up with experienced head coaches, he tends to struggle.
Yeah.
Super Bowl experience or not. Those guys have typically put him
Peterson, Reed
in a blender. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's do the very last thing. Everybody asked it, but things are a little bit different now. Quick season record prediction. And if they sneak into the playoffs, we've got, let's see, 4 games left for the Chargers. They are currently 7-6. They are the 7th seed right now, as of today. They play the Titans at home. Win or loss?
Loss.
Okay, loss. Same 7-7. Rams.
Colts.
Colts. They play in Indianapolis on Monday night.
I think they beat the Colts.
Yep, same here. So now they're 8-7. Rams. I think they win that game.
I think they'll beat the Rams. Yep.
And then Broncos in Denver. I've got a win. I've got them 10-7. What about you?
I think they lose that game.
Oh, a 9-6 team. A 9-6 team does not make the playoffs.
That'd be 9-8.
Or right? 9-8.
That's 17 games.
Yep, 9-8. Yep. Thank you.
You're going the wrong way.
This late. So you have them not making the playoffs.
I have them not making the playoffs. I think they are fully capable of beating the Broncos. The Broncos always give them fits. I freaking hate that defense for what it does to Herbert. Going up to Denver, something about that place seems to have bad juju for the Chargers. It just feels like that Raider game last year, having to win on the road against a division rival that you've already played and beat once. Something about that game just gives me the willies. I just don't like it. So I have a feeling they lose that game.
This feels like the game today. I just don't know how Russell Wilson's going to move the ball. And by the way, Russell Wilson got knocked out today. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be playing next week. It looked ugly. He looked out for a good minute, but so Russell Wilson might not even be there that game, and they're already out of the playoffs. So they might shut him down. Who knows? It might be ripping.
Could be. Really hopefully.
Ripping. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna say 10-7. I say they win that game, regardless. So I've got them making the playoffs. 10-7. I think they make the playoffs. I just don't see the Jets going anywhere.
They could theoretically still get in at 9-8.
They could, sure.
I think the Jets are probably ripe for a collapse, and I don't think New England is that good. So I think it's entirely possible they could hang on to that 7 seed, even if they finish 9-8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. I think cool.
The tough part is going to be their conference record. If they wind up losing the Titans and they wind up losing to the Broncos down the stretch, that could make it tough.
Sure will. All right, cool. Well, we're good here. Chargers win, currently number 7 seed. We appreciate you guys. Make sure to follow us. There's a link in there for the Discord for those asking, and the Patreon. So thanks for joining. And everybody, we had a big surge this week. So appreciate everybody that came on and joined us, all the new Discord members, all the Patreon members. Appreciate you guys. We really do. I hope everybody has a good holiday. We'll talk to you before then, but thanks everybody. And we'll see you next time.
Before we go real quick, just wanted to add, we haven't figured out how we're going to do it yet, but I think we're going to be giving away some lightning round swag for the holidays, and probably also a couple of links for the Discord. So we'll figure that out and announce it on Twitter. So keep an eye out for anybody who might be interested in a t-shirt or some stickers, or perhaps a link for the Discord. We'll figure that out, and we'll get that out on Twitter.
Yep. Yeah. So check out, it'll be at lightning_round on Twitter. Check that out. We'll probably announce it here too. So it's not just for Discord people, it's for everybody. So whether you're watching this and you're part of Discord and Patreon or not, we're just feeling in a giving mood this season, and we'll give some people some shirts, which I hopefully make them happy and not sad. So appreciate you guys, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.